There's a moment that hits different. You're in a room, could be work, could be a group of friends, could be a family gathering, and someone says something. Not to anyone else, to you, right in front of people who matter to you. And they do it, knowing you won't fight back, knowing you'll just sit there and take it. That moment, right there, that's the moment everything changes about how people treat you, because here's what just happened. In their mind, they tested you, and you failed the test. They discovered that you're someone who can be disrespected without consequence. And that information spreads, not in words, in behavior. The way they interact with you from that point forward shifts. They're slightly more dismissive. They interrupt you more. They're less careful with their words around you. You've just been marked. Now, I'm not talking about throwing a punch or losing your composure or doing something desperate. I'm talking about something way more dangerous. What you're about to learn are 7 methods that turn you into someone people don't dare test anymore. Not because you're physically aggressive, but because you're operating on a completely different psychological level, because you understand how power actually works. These aren't motivational tactics. This is practical weaponization of strategy. By the end of this, you won't think the same way about disrespect. The way you respond, or more importantly, the way you don't respond, will fundamentally shift how everyone around you treats you forever. Your boss will be more careful. Your friends will second-guess themselves before testing you. People who wanted to diminish you will start to respect the boundaries you've established. And the most dangerous part, you won't have said a single word about any of it. Way number 1, master. The silence that kills. Most people think strength is loud. They think power sounds like a comeback, like the sharp words that cut someone down, like the moment where you defend yourself. And everyone in the room goes, "Oh," and suddenly you're the one with status. That's what they believe power looks like. That's what they expect from you when they disrespect you. And because they expect it, they prepare for it. They've already written a script for your response. They know what an angry person says. They know what a hurt person looks like. They've rehearsed defenses for all of it. They're ready for the fight because they want the fight. Fighting validates them. It proves they moved you. It proves they matter. That's your advantage. When someone disrespects you in front of others, every part of your nervous system screams, react, say something back, show them you're not weak, defend yourself, show everyone you're not someone to be tested. That's the addiction talking. The deep need for immediate validation. The urge to prove your worth right then and there. And the moment you give in to that urge, the moment you can't help yourself and respond, you've just handed them everything they wanted, your energy, your attention. Proof that they moved you, proof that they matter, proof that they successfully made you lose your composure. They won the actual battle they were fighting, not the verbal one, the deeper one, the battle for emotional control. But here's what actual silence does. Not the silence of someone who's scared and doesn't know what to say. Not the silence of someone who's intimidated, but the silence of someone who's genuinely decided you're beneath their engagement. You're not worth a response. When you say nothing, you create a psychological vacuum, and people's brains hate vacuums. They rush in to fill them. They replay the moment over and over. They expected one of 3 reactions: anger, visible hurt, or a sharp comeback. They prepared defenses for all 3 options, but you gave them nothing, none of the 3. So now they're in a loop. Why didn't they react? Did I miscalculate? What does that mean? And here's the psychological mechanism that matters. Uncertainty creates anxiety. Not anger, not confrontation. Uncertainty. Uncertainty is the weapon that destroys people from the inside, because the human brain is a prediction machine. When it can't predict what happens next, It generates anxiety. It imagines worst-case scenarios. It creates a narrative where you're unbothered because you don't care. Or worse, because you're operating on a level they don't understand. Let's get specific, because this is where most people misunderstand. You're in a meeting, your manager is there, you've done good work and you present something. And a co-worker, someone who's been wanting to diminish your status, makes a comment, not a compliment, a dismissal. Yeah, but that won't work because... And he says it with a slight smile, like he's caught you in something. Everyone feels the tension. The room knows what just happened. He tested you. Now, most people respond. They defend their idea. Actually, it will work because... And now there's a back and forth, and the status is unclear. But this is exactly what he wanted. He got engagement. But what if you did nothing? What if you just looked at him for half a second? No anger, no hurt, just looking at him, and then turned back to your manager and continued. Said nothing, acknowledged his comment with literally zero response. In that moment, something shifts. Everyone in the room is now wondering, why didn't he respond? Is that a power move? Or is he just unbothered? The co-worker is definitely replaying it. He expected a reaction. He prepared a defense. But there was nothing to defend against, and that nothing is going to haunt him. Here's the thing most people don't understand about silence. It's not passive. Silence is an active statement. It's a choice. And people sense the difference between I don't know what to say, silence, and I've decided you're not worth responding to, silence. The distinction is subtle, but it's everything. Watch what happens. The next time that coworker sees you, he might try again. He might test you a second time, because the first time he's genuinely not sure he won.
He didn't get a reaction, so he didn't get confirmation. Maybe you were just shocked. Maybe you didn't hear him. So he pushes again, harder this time, and you respond the same way. Nothing. You're unfazed. You're just carrying on. That's when it hits him. You didn't respond the first time because you weren't affected, not because you didn't know what to say, not because you were too shocked. You didn't respond because his opinion doesn't matter to you. He doesn't have the power he thought he had. Most people are addicted to reaction, the way drug addicts are addicted to drugs. They measure their power by how big they can make you react. The louder, the more desperate, the more emotional. That proves they moved you. That proves you cared enough to respond.
That proves they matter. When you're silent, you're communicating the opposite. You're communicating, you're not important enough for my attention. You're not interesting enough to merit a response. I have better things to think about. That's psychological devastation. And it works, and because silence creates a status imbalance, in his mind, he made an effort to engage with you, and you deemed him not worth your words. That's a statement about relative power. He's below your level. Here's what actually happens. Over 3 months, when you master this, consistently, month 1, coworker tests you multiple times. You're silent every time. He starts to seem like the weird one. Everyone else notices he keeps trying to engage, and you just don't. Month 2, he stops testing you as much. But his behavior around you changes. He's slightly more formal. He's careful about what he says around you because he's learned that testing you gets him nothing. Plus, his reputation among others is starting to shift. People think he's awkward for trying to engage with someone who clearly doesn't want to engage with him. Month 3. He's basically treating you with standard respect because the cost-benefit of disrespecting you has become negative, and he doesn't even know why. He just knows that you're someone who doesn't react to disrespect, and that makes you someone to be careful around. And here's where it gets even more powerful. The most advanced version of this isn't just silence. It's silence combined with unwavering presence. You don't just say nothing. You remain completely calm and composed. Your face doesn't register the disrespect. Your body language doesn't tense. You're just there, unaffected, present but unmoved. This combination, silence plus complete composure, is what actually breaks people, because it communicates invulnerability. It communicates that they don't have the power to affect you emotionally. And in a world where most people are desperate for reactions, where most people measure their impact through emotional responses, you just showed them you're not playing that game. Way number 2, remove their access to you. Here's what most people completely misunderstand about power and respect. Your presence is worth something. Not to you, to them, your time, your energy, your attention, your conversation, your loyalty, your investment in the relationship, the fact that you show up and engage with them. These things are currencies more valuable than most people realize. The only reason they're not valuable is because you keep giving them away freely. You're handing out access like it's worthless. Your time, available whenever they want it. Your energy, spend it on them. Your attention, they get it immediately. Your words, ready to engage. Your friendship, it's there no matter how they treat you. And because it's free, it's worthless. The moment someone disrespects you, they've made a calculation, a transaction. They've traded their respect, the respect they used to have for you, for a moment of power, for 5 seconds of dominance, for the feeling of being bigger than you. They spent your respect like it was pocket change, because they knew there wouldn't be consequences. You'd stay, you'd keep investing. And what do most people do when someone disrespects them? They stay, they keep showing up, they keep calling, they keep offering the same friendship, the same loyalty, the same presence, and they're essentially saying, you can spend my respect like it's worthless, and I'll still be here investing in you. That's a losing transaction. You've probably heard this before. Scarcity creates value. It sounds like a cliche, but most people understand it intellectually without actually living it. They know it's true, they just don't apply it. But this is where it gets real. When you're always available, always responding, always willing to move past disrespect, always ready to forgive, always there no matter what, you become fungible, replaceable. You're one of many people in their life who's willing to tolerate how they treat you. But when you're rare, when access to you is limited, when they understand that one wrong move means permanent loss of access to you, not as an enemy, but as someone who just didn't make the cut, everything shifts. Suddenly you matter more. Suddenly they're careful. Suddenly the cost of disrespecting you becomes higher than the benefit. Let's get concrete, because this is where people struggle. You have a friend, been friends for years, and he disrespects you, not dramatically, no screaming fight, just something casual, a dismissal, a comment that's meant to diminish you. Everyone else moves on, but you don't. What do? Most people, they let it go, they respond like normal, they text back, they show up to group events, they pretend it didn't happen. What you do, instead, you cut him. But here's the key, not loudly, not with drama, not with an explanation or a call telling him why. You just vanish. The next group outing, you're not there. They ask why, you don't explain, you're just busy. The next invite, you decline. The next time he reaches out, you don't respond immediately, you're just less available. Most people can't do this because they're afraid of being alone. So they tolerate, so they complain, so they stay in cycles with people who don't respect them. They'd rather have a diminishing friendship than face loneliness. You're different. You're willing to be alone. Now let's see what actually happens. At first, he doesn't notice much. He's still in the group. You're just not at events as much. But 3 weeks in, it hits him. He realizes He hasn't seen you in a while. He might reach out. "Hey man, where have you been?" And you respond friendly but briefly. You're cordial, but you're not available like you used to be. He starts to realize something shifted, and he's replaying that moment where he disrespected you. Was that it? Did he lose access, Cade, because of that? He's not sure. But something changed. By month 2, he's definitely changed his behavior around you. He's more respectful, more careful with his words, because he's learned that testing you gets him nothing. Plus, his reputation among others is starting to shift. People think he's awkward for trying to engage with someone who clearly doesn't want to engage with him. By month 3, if he hasn't adjusted, you're essentially gone from his circle, not as an enemy, as someone who just didn't make the cut. You work somewhere. Your manager is decent, but he takes you for granted. He interrupts you constantly. He gives you credit to others sometimes. He's dismissive in meetings. Most people, they stay, they complain to co-workers, they do their job, but they're resentful. What you do, you establish a boundary to be, through action, you're still polite, you're still professional, but your availability decreases. You're in your office with the door closed more. You're less likely to take on extra projects. You don't volunteer for things. You're not rude. You're just less invested, and something shifts in his calculation. He realizes that you're not desperate to please him. You're not trying to win his respect. You're just doing your job. And because you're less invested, your work actually gets more valuable because he notices your absence. This isn't manipulation. This is just respecting your own time. But to him, it feels like a withdrawal of access. And that withdrawal communicates something. You're not as interested in the relationship
as he thought. Here's what's actually happening. Psychologically, when you remove access, he was getting something from you: attention, respect, investment, presence. And now he's not getting it. That loss creates a gap. And humans notice gaps. They notice when something valuable is gone. The coldest part, you're not punishing him, you're just protecting yourself. You're not making a point. You're just respecting your own boundaries. And that's what makes it so powerful. You're not performing anger or hurt. You're just withdrawing. And absence teaches lessons that words never could. The most advanced version of this is selective availability. You don't remove access to everyone, but you're calculating about who gets your time. Maybe he had your full attention. Now, he gets 30 seconds before you go back to what you were doing. Maybe he used to be in your inner circle. Now he's just an acquaintance. Maybe he could call you anytime. Now you're busy. This isn't petty. This is strategic. You're signaling through your actions that his behavior has consequences, but you're not making a big deal out of it. You're just being less interested in investing in someone who doesn't respect you. Way number 3, elevate yourself beyond their reach. Here's something most people get completely wrong about response and revenge. The natural instinct when someone disrespects you is to respond, to react, to prove them wrong, to show them you're better, but that's still centered on them.
You're still reacting to them. You're still playing their game. The actual power move is to stop caring about the game entirely, to become so obsessed with your own growth that they fade into irrelevance. Every moment you spend thinking about someone who disrespected you is a moment you've stolen from your own greatness, energy that could go into becoming better. It's going into resentment, time that could go into building. It's going into proving them wrong. But the person who's truly powerful, it isn't trying to prove anyone wrong. They're too busy proving themselves right. Let's picture something specific. 5 years from now, you've been building, not erratically, systematically. Every single week, you've gotten better at your craft. You understand money better than you used to. You're significantly more disciplined. You've built real power, not status, but actual capability. The person who disrespected you, they're watching your growth. Maybe they're not actively watching, but the news filters through. A mutual friend mentions your success. They see something you posted, they hear something about you, and it's hitting them. They miscalculated, they bet against you. When you were small, when you weren't sure of yourself, when they could have affected you, and now, you're not. Now here's the beautiful part. You haven't said one word about them. You haven't mentioned them. You haven't thought about them in months. You haven't even constructed narratives about proving them wrong. You were too busy
Actually doing the work. See, when you're trying to prove someone wrong, you're still centered on them. You're reacting to them. You're letting their disrespect be the fuel. But that's a finite fuel source. Eventually, the anger burns out. But when you're obsessed with becoming great, actually great, not just greater than them, you're centered on yourself. You're pulling from an infinite source. Your vision, your standards, your desire to be excellent. That's infinitely more powerful. And here's the psychological mechanism. People can sense when someone's obsessed with actually getting better versus when they're obsessed with proving someone wrong. The person obsessed with actual growth has a different energy. They're calm, they're confident.
They're not trying to convince anyone of anything. The person obsessed with revenge is desperate. They want acknowledgement. They want their growth to be noticed and credited to the person they're trying to prove wrong. You're not like that. You've moved past it. Here's how this actually plays out. Someone at work disrespects you. Maybe it's a peer. Maybe it's someone senior. They make it clear they don't think much of you. They dismiss your ideas, they take credit, whatever. Most people respond by trying to prove themselves. They work harder. They try to get noticed. They're trying to make this person see that they were wrong. But you do something different. You decide you're not going to prove anything to them. You're going to build something that makes their opinion irrelevant. Year 1. You're learning your craft harder than anyone else. You're reading. You're practicing. You're getting better at what you do. You're not doing this to prove anyone wrong. You're doing this because you've decided to be excellent. Year 2, people are starting to notice. Not because you're trying to be noticed, but because you're actually getting good. You're getting results. You're becoming someone people want to work with. Year 3. You're in a position where you have options. You could move to a different company. You could start something. You have leverage now because you're actually capable. And the person who disrespected you, they're somewhere lower.
Not lower because you sabotaged them, lower because while they were focused on status and dominance, you were focused on actual capability. And when they see your success, they'll realize something. They bet on the wrong person, not because you proved them wrong, but because you proved yourself right. Here's what most people don't understand about this approach. It's the most aggressive thing you can do because success doesn't need to announce itself. Success just exists, and as you become more successful, as you become more capable, as you actually build something, you automatically displace people like this person. You move into circles they can't reach. You become someone they can't touch. And the worst part, for them, you didn't need them to know you won.
You didn't need their acknowledgement. You weren't even thinking about them. They were thinking about you, watching your rise, realizing their mistake, and you were too busy being excellent to notice. Way number 4, expose them through their own nature. There's a temptation when someone wrongs you to go after them directly, to expose them, to tell people what they really are, to strategically share information. That makes them look bad. Resist that urge, because it makes you look desperate. It makes you look hurt. It puts you on their level, in the mud with them, fighting for narrative control. The strategist doesn't attack. He waits, he watches, and he gives his enemy just enough rope to hang themselves with. Here's the mechanism. People who disrespect others aren't doing it from a place of strength. They're driven by insecurity, by ego, by a desperate need to feel bigger than someone else. Those same traits that compel them to disrespect you, that same insecurity, that same desperation to feel powerful are going to make them disrespect everyone else too. They'll keep pushing, they'll burn bridges, they'll make enemies because they're addicted to that momentary high of dominance. Every person they disrespect is another potential enemy they're creating. Every bridge they burn is another person who's had their character revealed. And the world watches. Your job isn't to be the one who takes them down. Your job is to step back and let their nature destroy them. And it will. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but it will. Let's play this out in a real setting. Someone at work, let's call him Brad, is the type who builds himself up by tearing others down. He disrespects you. He disrespects your co-worker. He's dismissive with the interns. He publicly contradicts his manager to look smart. Most people might try to fight back, try to expose him, create some situation where his behavior gets noticed by someone in power, but you do nothing. You just observe. You're cordial with him. You don't escalate. You just watch. Here's what happens. Week 1 through month 1. Brad continues his behavior. He thinks he's winning. He's still the same person, doing the same things. Month 2, someone else has had enough. Maybe it's the intern he was cruel to. Maybe it's a peer he disrespected. Maybe it's the manager he undermined. But someone is now actively frustrated with him, and they start talking to others about it. Month 3. Multiple people have experienced his disrespect now, and they're talking to each other, not in a coordinated way, but naturally, they're sharing stories. Yeah, he did that to me too. Month 4, a pattern is forming. People are realizing this isn't just how he is with one person, this is how he treats people. Month 5, he might have a confrontation. Someone might address his behavior directly. He might lose an opportunity because someone had a bad experience with him. He might be isolated because people figured out he's not someone to trust. And you're just doing your job. You're not the one who took him down. You're not the one who orchestrated anything. His own behavior did that. But here's where it gets more sophisticated. Sometimes you don't just wait. Sometimes you can accelerate the process by creating situations where his nature gets revealed faster. Not through lies, through truth, through positioning. For example, maybe you put him in a situation where he has to interact with people he hasn't burned yet. Or you're present when his normal behavior emerges. You stay calm, you stay composed, and you let the contrast between his chaos and your stability do the work. You're the one who looks reasonable. He's the one who looks desperate and reactive. The contrast is devastating, and it all comes from his behavior, not anything you did. This works, because it's not an accusation, it's not a campaign, it's just reality. When his behavior eventually catches up with him, no one can say they were just out to get me. His own actions condemned him. There's no defense, there's no argument. The exposure that comes from his own behavior is 100 times more powerful than any accusation you could make. Because it's undeniable, it's demonstrated, it's not something you claimed, it's something everyone experienced. And the most beautiful part? You maintained the moral high ground the entire time. You never said a negative word about him. You never orchestrated anything. You just let him be himself. And the world responded accordingly. Way number 5, control the narrative. Reality is not what actually happened. This is going to sound philosophical, but it's actually the most practical observation you can make. Reality is what people believe happened. That's it. That's the actual power dynamic in every situation. And what people believe is shaped entirely by who controls the story. This is how empires were built, how wars were won, how reputations were destroyed, not by facts alone, by control of the narrative, by who got to tell the story first, who got to frame it, who got to emphasize certain elements and hide others. When someone disrespects you, they're writing a story. In that story, they're dominant, you're weak, their comment was justified, you deserved it. If you allow that story to be the only one being told, you've already lost the psychological war. Everyone around you now has a narrative where you're the weak one. But here's the power move. You don't fight the story directly. You don't argue. You don't defend yourself desperately. That makes you look like you're losing the battle. Instead, you control the story through behavior, through strategic positioning, through subtle redirection. Calmness is a statement. Calmness tells people, I'm not worried, I'm not threatened, I'm not affected. When someone disrespects you and you respond with calmness, you're communicating something powerful. You're saying, this doesn't move me, this isn't serious. The contrast between your calmness and their intensity is devastating, because everyone watching is asking, why is he so calm if what was said was true? Why isn't he defending himself if he's actually in the wrong? Calmness creates doubt about their narrative. The second element is who you talk to and what you say. And this is where it gets subtle. You're not gossiping, you're not complaining, you're not trying to turn people against them. You're just strategically sharing perspective with people who matter. Maybe it's a manager, maybe it's peers, maybe it's someone whose opinion shapes the group. You have a conversation with them. You mention casually what actually happened from your perspective. Not aggressively, not desperately, just the truth as you see it. And here's the key, you mention it when you're calm.
And they're in a good mood. You're not defensive, you're just sharing context. A few conversations like this, with the right people, can shift an entire room's understanding of what happened. Not because you lied, but because you shaped which truth got heard and how it got framed. The most powerful part of controlling the narrative is actually showing a different story through your behavior. While the other person is running their mouth, you're showing up with excellence, you're demonstrating integrity, you're proving through your daily movements that you're not the person they tried to portray. People trust what they see more than what they hear. If someone says you're incompetent, but they watch you deliver results,
the contradiction breaks their narrative. If someone says you're weak, but they watch you maintain boundaries, and remove people who disrespect you, the contradiction is undeniable. Let's make this concrete. You present an idea in a meeting, your manager and the team are there. Someone, let's say your colleague, someone higher up than you says something dismissive. Yeah, but that's based on faulty assumptions about the market. Now, you could respond, you could defend your idea, and now there's back and forth, and it's unclear who won. Instead, you stay calm. You might say, I'd love to hear what assumptions you think are faulty. And then you listen. You're not defensive, you're just interested. That calmness is powerful. Now here's the narrative that starts forming. He seems confident in his idea. He's not getting defensive. He's asking for feedback. Meanwhile, the other person looks reactive. They came out attacking instead of asking questions. They look like they were trying to win a battle rather than solve a problem. Over the next few days, you talk to your manager separately, casually. Hey, I was thinking about what person said in the meeting. I think there's actually some valid points, but I also think the market data we pulled suggests you're not attacking him. You're just presenting context, your version of events. Then you execute, you implement your idea, or you incorporate feedback and implement it. Either way, You're moving forward confidently. And what's the narrative now? He's the one who listens. He's the one who incorporates feedback. He's the one who actually gets things done. The other person, they just come across as someone who throws criticism without constructive intent. The person who controls the narrative doesn't win by making the loudest case. They win by being the one who's clearly unbothered by the noise. That unbotheredness signals strength. It signals truth. It signals that you don't need everyone to believe you. You're going to move forward regardless. Way number 6, strike at reputation, not the person. There's a moment when silence stops being enough, when elevation isn't working fast enough, when you need something more direct. But here's where most people get it completely wrong. They attack the person. They attack the character directly. They go after the flaws they can see. He's insecure. He's desperate. He's a fraud. They make it personal. That's weak. That's the weapon of someone who's desperate, and it makes you look petty. The intelligent move, the Machiavellian move, is to strike at reputation, because reputation is the only real currency anyone has in this world. It's the only thing that actually matters. A person can lose money and rebuild it. A person can lose a job and get another, can lose a position and climb back, can go bankrupt and recover, can lose almost everything material and rebuild it. But a person who loses their reputation, that's permanent, because reputation is what opens doors. It's what gets them opportunities. It's what makes people trust them. It's what makes people want to work with them, invest in them, follow them. Without reputation, they're blocked from everything. And here's what most people don't understand. You don't destroy reputation by attacking directly. You destroy reputation by building relationships with the people around them. Think about this strategically. This person, let's call him Tom, doesn't exist in isolation. He has allies, he has colleagues, he has friends, he has people whose opinions he cares about, he has people whose respect he needs. Your job isn't to convince Tom that he's bad. Tom already knows what he is. Your job is to become more valuable to his ecosystem than he is. You build relationships with his colleagues. You show up.
You deliver. You prove your character in spaces where he can't control the narrative. You become someone people depend on. You become someone people respect. And then, slowly, people around Tom start to question him. Not because you said anything bad about him, but because they're comparing you to your loyalty versus his disloyalty, your integrity versus his lack of it, your reliability versus his chaos. Let's make this real. Tom is someone at your company who's disrespected you. Maybe he's a manager, maybe he's a peer, and he's pretty established. People respect him, or they did. What you do, you start building relationships with people in his circle. You volunteer for projects that put you in contact with his direct reports.
You show them that you're someone who actually invests in their growth. You give them credit when they deserve it. You make their jobs easier. You become someone they can rely on. You also start working more directly with his peers and managers. You demonstrate your work quality. You show up early. You're reliable. You're someone people can trust. You don't say anything negative about Tom, not once. You don't gossip. You don't create drama. You just operate at a higher level of integrity and competence. Now, watch what happens. His direct reports are comparing him to you. He's demanding, he's dismissive. He doesn't invest in them, but you're interested. You help them grow. His peers are noticing. They work with you, and they see someone professional and reliable. They work with him, and they see someone reactive and defensive. His manager is realizing that people want to work with you, that projects do better when you're involved, that people feel respected and when they work with you. And then something shifts. Tom's world starts to get smaller. People aren't avoiding him dramatically, but they're preferring you when they have a choice. His direct reports are requesting transfers. His peers are avoiding projects with him. His manager is giving more authority to you. And Tom is realizing his position is eroding, but he can't point to anything you did wrong. He can't complain that you attacked him, because you didn't. You just operated at a higher level. The isolation will be complete, and it will feel to him like the universe turned against him. But it wasn't the universe, it was you, operating in silence, moving with precision, building alliances, demonstrating superiority without ever making it about him. This works because you're not fighting him, you're transcending him, you're not trying to prove he's bad, you're just proving you're better. And that's devastating because there's no defense against it. He can't complain that you're attacking him. He can't claim you're spreading rumors. He can't even say you did anything wrong. You just operated at a higher level, and people naturally gravitated toward that. Way number 7. Become completely indifferent. Everything before this has been building to this moment. Because true power, the kind that's genuinely untouchable, the kind that can't be moved, the kind that exists, independent of what anyone else thinks or does, that's not about any external strategy. It's about one internal transformation. The moment you stop needing anything from anyone, you become the most dangerous person alive. Not dangerous like violent, dangerous like immune, dangerous like you can't be controlled, dangerous like you can't be manipulated, dangerous like you've transcended the entire game everyone else is playing. Let's start here. Think about why disrespect even hurts in the first place. It hurts because some part of you cares what that person thinks. Deep down, beneath all your bravado, there's a dependency. You value their opinion. You value their respect. You value their approval. And when they disrespect you, they're signaling, I don't think much of you. Your opinion isn't worth respecting. Your standards aren't important. And that hits because you're still dependent on external validation. As long as that dependency exists, you're vulnerable, you're controllable, you're a puppet with strings attached. And everyone can see those strings. The people who are good at manipulation know exactly where to pull. But what happens when you cut the strings? This is different from the other 6 because it's not a tactic. It's not something you do, it's something you become. You reach a state where the opinion of another person genuinely doesn't affect you.
And I don't mean you're pretending it doesn't, I mean it actually doesn't. You could look at someone disrespecting you and feel nothing. Not anger, not hurt, not even the desire for revenge, not even the desire to prove them wrong. Just nothing. Because you've realized they don't matter to you. Their opinion isn't information, it's just noise. It's the noise of someone operating at a lower level of understanding. When you reach this state, you become untouchable. You can't be manipulated by something you don't care about. You can't be controlled by opinions that hold no weight. You can't be hurt by someone whose respect you don't seek. You operate on a plane they can't reach because you've already left their game. Now, this takes real internal work.
Most people will never do it because it means confronting the parts of themselves that are still desperate for validation. It means killing the inner child who still craves approval from others. It means rewiring your brain to source your worth entirely from within, from your vision, from your standards, from your values, from your understanding of what you're trying to build. Nothing else. This isn't easy because we're social creatures. We evolved in tribes where status mattered because status determined survival. So the need for approval is deep. It's ancient. It's not something you can just think away. You have to actually rewire it. How do you actually get there? First, you identify where you're still dependent on external validation? Where do you still need people to think well of you? Where are you still trying to impress people? Where are you still hoping for approval? Be honest about this. It's usually more places than you think. Second, you deliberately practice not needing that validation. Someone disrespects you. Instead of responding, whether that response is silence, brilliance, or revenge, you practice genuinely not caring. You sit with that feeling of indifference. You build the muscle. Third, you build your own standards. What do you actually care about? Not what you think you should care about, but what do you actually care about? What vision drives you? What do you want to create? What do you want to be? When your identity is built on these internal standards instead of external approval, something shifts. You're no longer vulnerable to what others think because their thoughts aren't connected to your sense of self anymore. Here's what happens when you actually reach this state. Someone who disrespected you in the past tries again. Maybe they've been quiet for a while because they've learned you're not responsive, but they test again. Maybe they think you've forgotten. Maybe they think one disrespect was just a fluke, and they say something to diminish you. And you respond with nothing, literally nothing. But this time, it's different. You're not silent because you're practicing a tactic. You're silent because they're genuinely beneath your attention. You're not ignoring them. As a power move, you're ignoring them. You're like you'd ignore a pigeon on the street. And in that moment, something in them breaks because they realize they've lost all power over you. Not because you defeated them, not because you won some competition, but because they became irrelevant to you. You've transcended the game. You're not playing anymore, and that's devastating for someone who thought they had leverage. Here's what's remarkable. People can feel this. They sense when someone is no longer playing the approval game. They sense when someone is genuinely unbothered by their opinion. And it changes how they interact with you. Because most people are slaves to needing approval. They're constantly calculating. What do they think of me? How can I get them to like me? What do I need to do to win their respect? When they encounter someone who's not doing that, someone who's just living by their own standards, building their own vision, not seeking validation, it throws them off. It's attractive. It's powerful. It's the energy of someone who's free. And suddenly, people want your approval instead of you wanting theirs. This is actually the spiritual level of power, not power over others, power over yourself, not control of external circumstances, control of your internal state. When you master your own mind, when you rewire your need for external validation, when you align your identity with your vision and values instead of with others' opinions, you've achieved what most people spend their entire lives chasing and never find. You are now
untouchable, not because you're invulnerable to physical harm, but because you're invulnerable to psychological control. No one can move you emotionally. No one can make you feel small. No one can diminish your sense of self. You are complete. You are free. And the most beautiful part? You didn't have to fight anyone. You didn't have to defeat anyone. You just had to become someone who no longer needs anything from them. You now possess 7 weapons, 7 methods, 7 pathways to becoming someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, someone who commands respect without ever asking for it. The first 5 are external strategies, tactics, ways of positioning yourself and responding that shift how people treat you. The 6th is a hybrid. It's strategic,
but it's also about understanding power. But the 7th, true indifference, that's the spiritual level. That's where the actual untouchability comes from. Use these wisely. Use them strategically. Use them without hesitation when the moment demands. But understand this, you don't need them to prove anything. You need them because you've decided to stop tolerating disrespect. Not because you're angry, but because you've realized you deserve better. You've realized your time is valuable. You've realized that not everyone deserves access to you. If this hit you, if something in this stirred something deep that you've been feeling but couldn't articulate, comment below one phrase: I am untouchable. That's not arrogance, that's clarity. That's you claiming your power. That's you deciding right now, I will not tolerate disrespect. I will not compromise my standards. I will not diminish myself for anyone. Like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. The weak will scroll past. The ones who understand power, they're already applying this. Which one are you? Remember this, respect is never given. It is commanded, it is built, it is earned through your standards and your refusal to compromise them. Now go become someone who doesn't need anyone's respect because they already respect themselves.